Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. Today's tutorial is all about layering made cute. We're wearing a cropped crochet cardigan featuring the beautifully textured Suzette stitch on the bodice, fitted sleeves, and simple front tie closure. It's chic and the perfect finishing touch for your handmade wardrobe. If you're new here, welcome. I share modern patterns and tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. So tell a friend, tap the bell, and subscribe so you never miss an upload. And if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up if you like it or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to support the channel and help keep these tutorials free. So without further ado, here's how to make your own cropped front tie cardigan. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 275 grams of yarn. That's 615 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 5mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and stick to the end of the video to hear about this week's pattern giveaway. We're using 4 stitches for this project and they'll be as follows: chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet. This tutorial is made for size small. You can adjust it for your size and explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this top started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Then we're all going to grab our 5mm hook, and we're all going to start by making a chain 1 because we're getting started with the middle of our cup first. Once we have our chain, we're all going to block off that last chain and do a chain 2. Now that chain 2 is our turning chain. Then into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, we're going to insert with an increase of 5 half double crochets. Starting with the yarn over, into that first chain that we made, insert, starting with 1 half double crochet, so pull through, yarn over, pull through 3, again, yarn over, same chain with a second half double crochet, yarn over into that same chain with a third half double crochet, same chain with a fourth half double crochet, and same chain with a fifth half double crochet. Everyone's row 1 is complete. We should all have 5 stitches. Now we're going to get started on our row 2, so chain 2 and flip. Every even number row is going to start with an increase of 4 half double crochets. Starting with the yarn over, into that first stitch from our previous row, we are going to insert with 1 half double, same first stitch with a second half double, same first stitch with a third half double, same first stitch with a fourth half double crochet. Now we're going to do our Suzette stitch after that increase. So after that increase, we're going to skip 1 stitch, and into that following stitch, we're going to insert with 1 single and 1 double crochet. So skip 1, into that next with 1 single crochet, into that same stitch that our single crochet is in with 1 double. So yarn over, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2. That is our first Suzette stitch. Now since we're all at the end of the row, we should all have 2 stitches left. We're going to complete it with 1 half double crochet into the last stitch. So yarn over, skip that second to last, and into the last insert with 1 half double crochet. That should give us a total of 7 stitches at the end of our row 2. The beginning of our row 2 is going to be the top of our piece, so insert a stitch marker into the beginning of this row just so we know where the top is. Our first 2 rows are completed. We should all have a total of 7 stitches. Getting started on our row 3, we're going to chain 2 and flip. Now starting off our odd number row, it's going to start with an increase of 4 half double crochets again. So yarn over into that first stitch with 1 half double, same first stitch with a second, same first stitch with a third, same first stitch with a fourth. After that increase, we are going to skip 1 stitch and into the next do our Suzette stitch. So 1 single, and into that same stitch 1 double crochet. Again, after that Suzette stitch set, we should all have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches left. We're going to do another Suzette stitch set. So we're going to skip 1 stitch into the next with a single and a double crochet. Now, since we should all have 2 stitches left at the end of our odd number row, we're going to close it off with an increase of 3 half double crochets. So yarn over, skip the second to last stitch, and into the last, insert with one half double, into that same last stitch with a second half double, same last stitch with a third half double crochet. Now at the end of our row 3, we should all have a total of 11 stitches. Now we're going to continue to repeat our 2 previous rows until we get the height of the cup that we would like. So let's just get started on row 4 and 5 together. So to get started on our even number row, we're going to chain 2 and flip. So for our even number row, we are going to start with an increase of 4 half double crochets. Start with a yarn over into that first stitch with 1, same first stitch with a second, same first stitch with a third, same first stitch with a fourth. After that increase, we are always going to skip that following stitch, and into that next stitch, insert with a Suzette stitch. So skip 1, into the next, insert with a single, and with a double crochet. Then we're just going to Suzette stitch until we all have 2 stitches left. Now when it comes to doing the Suzette stitches, we're always going to skip that following stitch because technically that double crochet counts as that following stitch. If we work directly into there, we will accidentally be increasing. And also our Suzette stitches will pretty much always be worked into the previous row's single crochet to get the texture that we want. Now we're going to skip that following stitch, which is per usual, but also that is a double crochet from our previous row. We can tell because that's a little bit taller than that following stitch. So we're going to skip 1, into the next with our Suzette stitch, so single, into that same stitch with a double, and again skip that next stitch, into the next with a single and a double, and since we're doing it together, we should all have 4 stitches left. So again, skip a stitch, into the next, single and a double, and since we are doing our even number row, we're going to close off the row with just 1 half double crochet. So yarn over, skip that second to last stitch, into that last with 1 half double crochet. Now we have just completed our row 4. We should all have a total of 13 stitches. Now to do our row 5, we're going to chain 2 and flip. This row is going to start off with an increase of 4 half doubles. So into that first stitch with 1, first stitch with a second, then with our third, then with our fourth, then Suzette stitch, making our way all the way down until we have 2 stitches left. So as a refresher, after that increase, skip 1 stitch, into the next, insert with a single and a double, skip a stitch, and I'll meet you back when we have 2 stitches left. We are nearly completed with our row 5. We should all have 2 stitches left. Into that last stitch, we're all going to close off with an increase of 3 halves. So yarn over, skip that second to last. Into that last, we're going to insert with 1 half, same last stitch with our second half, same last stitch with our third half double crochet. Now everyone's first 5 rows are completed. At the end of our row 5, we should all have a total of 17 stitches. Now all we're going to do from here is continue to repeat our 2 previous rows until the bottom of the cup reaches our underbust. So as a really quick tip, the point of our cup, so the middle where the tail end is going to stay at the center of our chest at mid-chest. Then I'll meet everyone back once when this scoop can reach our underbust, so roughly where an underwire would lay. Then I'll meet everyone back right after an odd number row so that we'll be along the top. Then we can continue on with the height of our cup together from there. We are back and the height of my cup is now completed. I have a total of 9 rows. My width is just about 3 inches or 8 centimeters, or my increase height is just about 6.5 inches or 17 centimeters. Now from here, we're going to get started on the rest of the cup width from here. But right before we do that, we are going to want to make sure that we're inserting a stitch marker into the beginning of our previous row, just so we know where the curve ends. Now that our stitch marker is into place, the following row is actually going to be done exactly the same way as our following row would be. So since we're along the top, we're going to chain 2, flip our work. Start with an increase of 4 half double crochets, Suzette stitch all the way down, closing off the row with just 1 half double crochet into the last stitch. Then I'll meet you back right after this following row. Our first cup width row is completed. Now from here, we're only going to be increasing along the top. So what we're going to do is chain 1 and flip our work. Start this row with a Suzette stitch. Into that first stitch, insert with 1 single crochet and also 1 double crochet. Skip a stitch, into the next with 1 single and 1 double. Continue with our Suzette stitch, leaving the last 2 stitches. We've made our way up, leaving the last 2 stitches. Now, like I said, we're only going to be increasing along the top now, so close off the row with an increase of 3 half double crochets. So skip that second to last and into the last with 1 half double, same last with a second, same last with a third. We're now going to repeat these 2 previous rows until we now have a portion that can reach over from the center of our chest over to where we'd like for the strap to be, so roughly where a tank top strap or a bra strap would lay. I'll meet everyone back right after an odd number row. Again, that'll be along the top, then we can work straight into the shoulder together from there. We have just completed the width of our cup. I have a total of 13 rows. This width is just about 4 inches or 10 centimeters. The increase height that I have is now just about 8.5 inches or 22 centimeters. We all should have ended along the top, so what we're going to do from now is make an even numbered chain that can reach the top of our shoulder. So what we're going to do is place this tail end still at center chest, at mid bust. We're going to make sure that the bottom blunt portion of our cup is still staying at our under bust, so roughly where an underwire would sit. Then make an even numbered chain that reaches the top of our shoulder. I went ahead and measured mine out. I need roughly 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters, so I went ahead and made a chain 16. Now we can do our shoulder. So once we have our chain, we're going to block off that last chain and do a chain 1. Into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're going to insert with our first Suzette stitch. So just insert with 1 single into that same chain with a double. Then from here, we're going to skip a stitch, into the next, another Suzette stitch, making our way all the way down. When we have 2 stitches left, close off the row with just 1 half double crochet, then I'll meet you back at the end of this row. We've just completed our first shoulder row. From here, we're going to repeat this previous row, so no increases, no decreases, until we now have a portion that can reach over to the corner of our underarm. So just making sure that we're getting the sizing correctly, we want to make sure that the tail end is still staying at center chest at mid bust. Then just continue on until this reaches the corner of our underarm. Then I'll meet everyone back right after an even number row, so that we'll be along the bottom. Then we can work straight into our underarm portion together from there. My shoulder portion is now complete. I now have a total of 16 rows. This width is just about 5 inches or 13 centimeters. Now we're going to do our underarm. So we're going to insert our stitch marker into any even numbered stitch from the top that's nearest to the corner of our underarm. Now I want to make sure that we're still placing this at center chest, mid bust. The blunt portion is still at our under bust, so our underwire would lay, and insert our stitch marker into any even numbered stitch from the top that's nearest to the corner of our underarm. I went ahead and inserted my stitch marker into the 22nd stitch from the top. That's just about 5 inches or 13 centimeters. Now we're going to do our first underarm row. So chain 1, flip our work, Suzette stitch all the way up, leaving the last 4 stitches before the stitch marker, then I'll meet you back. We've made our way up with our first underarm row, leaving the last 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches before our stitch marker. Now we're going to close off the row with a decrease of 3 double crochets. So yarn over. Skipping that 4th to last stitch, we're going to insert our hook into the following, pull through, into that following, pull through, and into the following, pull through to get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. From here, yarn over, pull through the first 4 loops to get 2 loops, then yarn over, pull through 2, and our first underarm row is complete. Our following row won't have any increases or decreases, so chain 1 and flip, and insert into that first stitch with our first Suzette stitch, and Suzette all the way down, closing off the row with just 1 half double crochet. Our first 2 underarm rows are completed. Just to make sure we have the decrease down, we're going to chain 1, flip our work, Suzette stitch all the way down, leaving the last 4 stitches, then I'll meet you back once more. Our first 3 underarm rows are nearly complete. We should have all left the last 4 stitches. So again, yarn over, skipping that 4th to last into that 3rd to last, insert pull through, 2nd to last, pull through, and last, pull through to get a total of 5 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through 4, yarn over, pull through 2. So our first 3 underarm rows are completed. From here, we're going to continue to repeat our 2 previous rows until we now have a portion that can stretch over to mid underarm. So again, making sure that this is placed at center chest, mid bust, and at our under bust. Then I'll meet everyone back right after an odd number row, right after we do a chain up of 1 and cut. Alright, so we are back. We have just completed the underarm portion. Now I have a total of 21 rows. My width is now just about 6.5 inches or 17 centimeters. Now, after we do a chain up one and cut, we're going to make a second front panel that is done exactly the same way. Once we have both of them completed, I'll meet you back so we can get started on the back panel. But since I already have both of mine completed, we can get started on the back panel now. So I actually have a decent amount of the back panel already completed as well. So what we're going to do is start by making a chain for the same amount of stitches that we have for the last row for our underarm. So for those of you that have my numbers, I had a total of 25 stitches. So for my back panel, I'm going to get started by making a chain 25. So once we have our chain, like I said, I'm doing a sample size with you. We're going to block off that last chain and do a chain 1. Into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're going to insert with our first Suzette stitch. So go ahead and insert with 1 single crochet, into that same chain with 1 double crochet, skip a stitch, and into that next chain, another Suzette stitch. Continue on with this until we all have 2 chains left. We made our way down with our first row, leaving the last 2 chains. Now from here, we're going to do an increase of 3 half double crochets all into that last, so start with a yarn over. Skip that second to last chain and into that last chain, insert with 1 half double crochet, into that same last chain with a second half double, and same last chain with a third half double crochet. Now we should have 2 more stitches than chains that we made. Our following row is not going to have any increases or decreases, so chain 1, flip our work, into that first stitch, insert with our first Suzette stitch, skip a stitch, Suzette stitch into the next until we have 2 stitches left. And when we have those 2 stitches left, close off the row with just 1 half double crochet into that last stitch. We've made our way down with our row 2, leaving the last 2 stitches. From here, yarn over, skip that second to last and into that last, insert with 1 half double crochet. Now we should have the same amount of stitches as our previous row. From here, we're going to chain 1, flip our work, and continue to repeat these 2 previous rows. We're going to continue to repeat those 2 rows until we have the same amount of underarm rows that we made for the front panel's underarm. So for those of you that have my numbers, I did a total of 5 underarm rows, so I will meet you back when I have a total of 5 underarm rows completed. So we are back. Using my sample size, I did complete my 5 underarm rows. Now what we're all going to do from here is make a chain for the same amount of stitches that we skipped when we got started on our underarm. So for those of you that have my numbers, I went ahead and inserted my stitch marker into the 22nd stitch from the top. So since we all should have ended along the top, I'm now going to make a chain of 22. Then we're going to do our same exact Suzette stitch rows with no increases, no decreases that we did for the shoulder until we have a portion that can reach across our back. So this is my back panel all completed with my 2 front panels laid on top. What we're going to do from here is, like I said, continue to do those shoulder rows, so no increases, no decreases, until we now have a portion that can reach from mid-underarm, that is for the back panel, across our back over to mid-collarbone, so across our chest. So roughly where our next bra strap or tank top strap would lay. After that, we all need to end right after an even number row, so that we'll be along the bottom. Then what we're going to do is the same underarm portion that we just did for the front panel. Once we have that completed, do a chain up 1 and cut, then I'll meet everyone back so we can seam it all together. Now, since I already have the entirety of my back panel completed, counting from my underarm rows all the way to my last back panel width row, I have a total of 40 rows. That width is just about 11.5 inches or 29 centimeters. Then, including the underarm portion, I now have a total of 45 rows, and now this width is just about 13 inches or 33 centimeters. Now we can get started on seaming up the shoulders. So go ahead and grab one of our front panels and place it on top of our back panel. Then we are going to insert our hook into the top corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. We are going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Then what we're going to do from here is single crochet in through both the front and the back panel at the same time, but we are going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. So finding our first side row within the front panel, this is mine right here, I'm going to find that top loop within the front panel. Then finding the first side row within the back panel, I'm going to find that top loop and insert my hook in through there and single crochet once. Then into that following side row, which this is mine within the front panel, I'm going to insert in through there. Following side row within the back panel, insert my hook in through there with 1 single crochet, Then into that same side row with a second. It should be a little bit easier since everything is already gathered for us. Then single crochet, and that's it. We're going to continue to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochet into every side row until we don't have any more side rows left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up 1 and cut, then repeat on the other side. So we have just completed seaming up our shoulder. Now we're going to seam up our sides. So making sure that our work is still flipped wrong side out, meaning the seam that we did for the shoulder is still on the outside, we're now going to insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. We are going to pull our working yarn through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. And now we're going to do a single crochet seam. So finding that first stitch into the front panel, insert, first stitch into the back panel, insert, single crochet, and once more, next stitch into the front panel, next stitch into the back, and single. Continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, then repeat on the other side. Alrighty, so now that everything is all seamed up, the next one we're going to do is our sleeve. So first things first, we're going to flip our work right side out, meaning all of our seams are along the inside. Then we're going to insert our hook into the stitch that's nearest to our side seam within the armhole. Then we're going to do a single crochet row. So making sure that we're working clockwise or we're showing the front of our single crochet row, we're going to start by working our way up our underarm. So working up our underarm portion, we have a bunch of side rows to do. We are going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, starting with 2 single crochets. So this is my first side row right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 2 single crochets. So there is 1. Into that same side row, insert with a second. This is my following side row. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with just 1, and it's just going to be this repeated. So again, finding our following side row, this is mine. Find that top loop and insert with 2 single crochets. And this is my following side row. Find that top loop and insert with just 1. And that's what we're going to do, working our way up our underarm portion. Then once we reach our stitches, simply pull 1 single crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way up and over. Then once we reach our side rows within the back, again, alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, starting with 2. Make your way all the way around, slip stitch into that chain space, then I'll meet everyone back. Now, just as a really quick tip, we are going to want to make sure that we remember this amount of stitches that we work into just the underarm portion, because that's going to be a number that we need to remember for the following rows. So our single crochet row is completed. Now we're going to close off the row together. So we're going to find that chain 1 space that we made when we got started on this single crochet row, and we're going to slip stitch it into there. And now our row 1 is completed. Now that slip stitch that closes off the end to the beginning of the row will look like an extra stitch, but it doesn't actually count. That's just there to connect. Now from here, we're going to do a back loop slip stitch row. So we're going to chain 1 and flip our work. Now from here, we're going to want to make sure that the back of our slip stitch row is showing in the front, and that's going to give us the ribbing that we're going to have for the sleeve. But all we're going to do is find that first stitch from our previous row, not that slip stitch that closed off the row, but that first one from our previous row. We're going to insert into that back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us, yarn over, and gently pull through everything on our hook. We want to make sure that we're not pulling through too tightly, otherwise the following row will be too tight to work into. Again, into the top of that next stitch, we're going to insert into that back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us, yarn over, and gently pull through everything, and that's what's going to be for this row. So simply put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Our second sleeve row is completed. Now we're going to do some decreased rows. So right after we slip stitched into our chain space, we're going to chain 1 and flip our work. We're now going to put 1 back loop single crochet into the same amount of stitches that we worked into the underarm portion. So for those that have my numbers, I did a total of 8 stitches just working into the top of my underarm. So now I am going to do a total of 8 back loop single crochets. So just finding that first stitch from our previous row, not working into that slip stitch, we're going to insert into that back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us, with 1 back loop single crochet, and I am going to do a total of 8 of those. So my back loop single crochets are completed. Now we're going to do a decrease of 2 back loop singles. So into that next stitch's back loop, we're going to insert, pull through, into that next stitch's back loop, pull through for a total of 3 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through all 3, and now right after that decrease, we're going to be putting 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the same amount of stitches that we did on top of our underarm portion, plus an additional 2 for the decrease. So since I did a total of 8 back loop single crochets plus a decrease, I'm going to leave a total of 10 stitches on the other side. So just to do our first back loop half double crochet, we're all going to yarn over. Into that next stitch's back loop, we're going to insert, pull through 3, yarn over again, next stitch's back loop, pull through 3. So I will meet everyone back right after I have a total of 10 stitches left so that we can close it off with our decrease and our single crochets. My row 3 is nearly completed. I am nearly at the end of my row. I should have left the same amount of stitches that I did working into the underarm, so that's 8 stitches for me, plus an additional 2, so a total of 10 stitches for me. Now, right after that last half double crochet, what we're going to do is a decrease of 2 back loop single crochets. So into that next stitch's back loop, pull through, also into that next stitch's back loop, pull through for 3 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 3. Then close off the row with 1 back loop single crochet into the rest of our stitches, then slip stitch into that chain space. Our first 3 rows are completed. Our following row is going to be a back loop slip stitch row, no increases, no decreases. So right after we slip stitched into that chain space, we're going to chain 1, flip our work, 1 back loop slip into every stitch. We have just completed our 4th sleeve row. Now what we're going to do from here is continue to repeat these 2 previous rows until we get an armhole that becomes nice and snug on our arm. Now our sleeve is going to be worked in sections. This first one is going to help cover up our shoulder. That's why the bottom is single crochets and we're doing half double crochets along the top just to give a little bit more length to the top of it. But right now the main thing we want to focus on is getting this sleeve to be nice and fitted. Now it doesn't need to be too tight, just make it nice and comfortable for you, but just continue on with that until it is snug on your arm. Then I'll meet everyone back right after a slip stitch row. We are back and the shoulder portion of my sleeve is completed. It is nice and snug on my arm. I have a total of 12 rows and the length along the bottom of my underarm is just about 2 inches or 4 centimeters. Now from here, we're basically going to continue to redo these rows but without the decreases now. So just to talk you guys through the following row, we're going to chain 1, flip our work. Start with 1 back loop single crochet for the same amount of stitches that we worked into for the underarm portion. So for me, that's going to be 8 back loop single crochets. My back loop single crochets are completed. Now from here, continue with 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, making our way up and over, leaving the same amount of stitches of single crochets that we just did. So for me, I will leave a total of 8 stitches left. We've made our way up and around with our half double crochets. We have left the same amount of stitches that we need to work into for our single crochets. So just complete the row with 1 back loop single crochet into every stitch. So our first non-decrease row is completed. Our next row is going to be another back loop slip stitch row, no increases, no decreases. Now all we're going to do for this portion of our sleeve is continue to repeat these 2 previous rows again with no decreases until we now have a portion that can lay completely horizontal on our arm when it's worn. So the section of the sleeve that we're doing now, like I said, no increases, no decreases since it already fits nice and snug on us. We just want to make sure that once we have it on, it doesn't tug on the neckline. So we want this to try and lay completely horizontal on our arm when it's worn. That's why we're still doing the small stitches along the bottom and the longer stitches along the top. Now once we have this portion completed, I'll meet everyone back right after a slip stitch row. Again, that is an even number row, then we can just work in with the length of the sleeve together from there. So my evening out rows are completed. I have a total of 26 rows and my underarm length is just about 4.5 inches or 11 centimeters. Now from here, we're just going to work on the length of our sleeve from here and it's going to be fairly simple. We're just going to alternate between half double and slip stitch rows. So since we all should have ended right after slip stitch row, just to show you guys how we're going to get started on our following half double crochet row, we're going to chain 2 now and flip our work. Now from here, it's going to be pretty simple. Just put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch until we reach the end of the row. No increases, no decreases. We've made our way all the way around with our first back loop half double crochet row. Now we're going to close it off. So what we're going to do is count up the 2 chains that we made when we started on this row, slip stitch into that second chain that we made, and remember that slip stitch doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then from here, our following row is a slip stitch row, so chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip into every stitch. So our following slip stitch row is complete. Just to do a decrease row together, it's going to be in the half double crochet rows. We're going to chain 2, flip our work, start with a decrease. So into that first stitch's back loop, we're going to insert, pull through, next stitch's back loop, pull through to get a total of 4 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through all 4, that is our decrease. Then from here, continue with 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last 2. So we've made our way all the way around with our back loop half doubles, leaving the last 2 stitches. Now we're going to close off the row with a decrease. So yarn over into that second to last back loop, pull through, into that last back loop, pull through for 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 4, and now our decrease row is completed. Now just to close off the row, the same way that we've done all the other half double crochet rows, count up the 2 chains, slip stitch into that second chain, and now this row is completed. Now from here, we're just going to continue to repeat our back loop half, back loop slip stitch row, remembering to decrease into any one of the half double crochet rows that you feel fit until we're ready to do our cuff. Now I will meet you back once my sleeve length is completed, and I'll let you know which rows I decreased into, but I will meet everyone back right after a slip stitch row. I have just completed the length of my sleeve. I have a total of 64 rows. Now, like I said in my previous clip, I'm going to let you guys know which rows I decreased into. So for me, it was the 41st, 45th, 49th, and 53rd row. Now that total length that I have is just about 13 inches or 33 centimeters. Now we're going to get started on our cuff. So everyone's last row should have been a slip stitch row. We're going to do a back loop single crochet row now just to help prep for our cuff. So that's going to be fairly simple. From where we're at, we're going to chain 1, flip our work, put 1 back loop single crochet into every stitch, then I'll meet you back. So we have just completed our back loop single crochet row along the bottom of our sleeve. Now from here, we're going to make a chain the length that we'd like for our cuff to be. You can make this as long or as short as you'd like. I'd like for mine to be just about 2 inches or 5 centimeters. So I'm going to start by making a chain 10. So now that we have our chain, we're all going to do a slip stitch row. So start by blocking off that last chain and do a chain 1. Into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're all going to insert with a slip stitch. So insert your hook. When we have these 2 loops on our hook, yarn over and gently pull through everything on our hook. We still want to make sure that we're not pulling through too tightly. Once more, into that following chain, insert, yarn over and gently pull through both. And from here, continue with 1 slip stitch into every chain. We've made our way down with our first slip stitch row. Now we're going to connect it into the base. The base is the single crochet row. So the next thing we're going to do is just find that next available stitch, insert with a slip stitch. That slip stitch into the base doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch up that following stitch into the base. That slip stitch into the base doesn't count as a stitch either. Flip our work and now put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So finding that first stitch from our previous row, not worked into any of those slip stitches into the base, we're going to insert into that back loop, yarn over, gently pull through everything. Again, next stitch is back loop, insert, pull through everything. From here, we're going to continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Then at the end of the row, simply chain 1, flip our work, and 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch again. Then I'll meet you back at the end of our row 3. We have just completed our first 3 rows. Now we're going to connect it into the base together once more, and it will be done the same way as our previous row. So just finding that next available stitch, insert with a slip stitch. Remember that doesn't actually count as a stitch. Then just to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch up that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and repeat. We're going to continue to repeat these 2 previous rows, making our way all the way around with no increases, no decreases. Then I'll meet you back to seam it up. We've just completed making our way all the way around with our back loop slip stitch rows. Now from here, we're going to seam everything together, and now we're going to do an outside loop slip stitch seam. So we're going to make sure that our work is flipped right side out now, then insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and back panel. Now that our hook is in through both corner stitches, we're going to yarn over and pull through everything on our hook, and we're going to chain 1 just to secure. Then finding that first stitch into the front panel, we're going to insert only in through that front loop. Next stitch into the back panel, we're going to insert only in through that back loop. Once when we have all 3 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Again, next stitch into the front panel, insert only into that front loop. Next stitch into the back, insert only into that back loop. Then yarn over, pull through everything on our hook, and just continue on with this seam until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up 1 and cut, then repeat everything we did here on the other side. Now that both of our sleeves and cuffs are completed, the next thing we're going to do is single crochet along our neckline. So just making sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. We're going to start by inserting our hook into the corner point of one of our cups, and we're going to be putting 2 single crochets into every side row, working our way up the top of our cup. So finding our first side row, this is mine right here, I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 2 single crochets. So there's 1 single crochet into that same top loop with a second single crochet. Then we're going to find that following side row, insert into that top loop, and insert with 2 single crochets again. We're going to continue with 2 single crochets into every side row. Once we reach our stitches, just put 1 single crochet into every stitch. Then once we reach the top of the back panel, I will meet everyone back. I've just made my way up the top of my cup and up our shoulder. Now we're going to work into the back panel. So all that's going to be is alternating between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. So we're going to start with 1 and find our first side row. This is my first side row right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 1. In the following side row, insert with 2. And just continue on with this, working our way across our back, then work our way down our shoulder and down our cup as well. But once we make our way down to the point of our cup, do not do a chain up of 1 and cut. I will meet everyone back. We've just completed our single crochet across the entirety of our neckline. Now once we reach this point, we didn't do a chain up of 1 and cut because now we can just actually do a prep for the chain that we're going to make for the tie. So what we're going to do from here is just make a chain just to see how long we like for the chain to be for the tie. Then once we have that chain, we're going to redo the chain, but connect it straight into the bottom single crochet row as well so that we don't have to have extra tail ends to weave in later. So from where we're at, go ahead and just make a chain for the length that we think we would like for the chain to be, just to test it out. So I went ahead and did my little tester chain. I wanted my chain to be just about 15.5 inches or 39 centimeters because I wanted my bow to have some decent bunny ears to it. So I made a chain of 75. Now that I have that chain number, I'm going to take apart my chain. Then once I reach my last single crochet, just do a chain up of 1 and cut. Then I'll meet you back. So we've just taken away that little prep chain that we did, and we did do a chain up of 1 and cut. So now we just have that single crochet row. Now from here, we're going to make a chain for that same prep chain that we made. Then we're just going to connect it into the cup and just work all the way across. So like I said, my prep chain was 75. So I just went ahead and made a chain 75. Then we're going to make sure the work is flipped right side out, right side up. The bottom is faced away from us because we want to show the front of the single crochet row. Then we're going to insert our hook into the left corner stitch of the left cup, then work our way down. So inserting our hook into the point of our left cup, we're going to insert and do 1 single crochet, and that is just to secure everything down. Now working our way down until we're worked into our stitch marker side row, we're going to be putting 2 single crochets into every side row. So just like how we did, working our way up our cup, find that first side row and insert with 2 single crochets. Then I'll meet you back once we're worked into our following stitch marker stitch. We worked our way down, putting 2 single crochets into every side row until we worked into our stitch marker side row. I did take out my stitch marker. Then into every side row until we reach our following stitch marker, alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets. So this is my following side row. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 1. Following top loop, insert with 2. Then I'll meet you back once we're worked into the side row right before our following stitch marker. So we've just made our way all the way around with our single crochets, and now we're worked into the side row right before our stitch marker side row. Now all we're going to do from here is from here until we reach the point, 2 single crochets into every side row. Then once when we reach the point, we're then just going to work off of that, making the same chain that we made for the other side. So for me, a chain 75. Once we have that chain completed, do a chain up 1 and cut. So we have just completed the other chain, and now we are actually all done. Now the last thing we have to do is simply weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. Hope you all enjoyed the tutorial. Enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us your favorite potato chip flavor. Mine is salt and vinegar. Details for the giveaway down below. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye!